The jungle planet of Verdun breathed with an eerie silence that Michael Reed found both unsettling and fascinating. Thick emerald-green vegetation stretched in every direction, creating a dense canopy that filtered sunlight into soft, mossy green hues. His environmental suit, a sleek silver-gray protective layer, stood in stark contrast to the wild organic landscape surrounding him. As the lead xenobiologist of the Galactic Exploration Unit, Michael had surveyed hundreds of planets, but something about this world felt different. The atmospheric sensors on his wrist device flickered with unusual readings, subtle vibrations that suggested massive life forms were nearby, yet remained completely undetectable through standard scanning technologies. His team had been tracking unusual energy signatures for 3 standard planetary rotations. While other researchers might have grown frustrated, Michael's curiosity only intensified. He remembered his academy training. In xenobiology, the most remarkable discoveries happen when you're patient enough to listen to what the planet is trying to tell you. A sudden rustling in the dense foliage caught his attention. Most researchers would have retreated or prepared defensive weapons. Michael, however, remained perfectly still, his breathing controlled, his movements deliberate. He waited. The movement grew closer. Something massive was approaching, something that didn't match any known biological classification in the galactic database. The ground beneath his specialized boots began to tremor slightly. A rhythmic pulse that suggested an incredibly large organism was moving with surprising stealth. Then he saw it. An enormous creature emerged from the vegetation, easily towering 3 times the height of a standard human transport vehicle. Its body was a complex network of layered exoskeletons, each segment shifting and adapting like living armor. Multiple sensory appendages moved independently, scanning the environment with a precision that suggested intelligence far beyond simple predatory instinct. This was an apex hunter, a species whispered about in terrified legends across multiple star systems. Entire research expeditions have been obliterated by these creatures, their technology and biological samples completely destroyed within seconds of an encounter. But something was different about this particular creature. Michael noticed a subtle vulnerability in its movement. A faint discoloration on its primary exoskeleton suggested injury, and its normally fluid motion carried a hint of limitation. The creature's multiple sensory appendages focused directly on Michael. In that moment, he understood this was no ordinary encounter. This was a potential bridge between human understanding and an entirely unknown form of intelligence. Most human protocols would demand immediate retreat or defensive action. Shoot first, analyze later, the standard approach of most galactic exploration teams. But Michael Reed was not most researchers. He slowly raised his hands, a universal gesture of non-aggression. The environmental suit's translation matrix began calibrating, attempting to interpret any potential communication signals. Michael knew the chances of successful communication were astronomically low, but he had built his entire career on challenging impossible odds. The apex hunter didn't move. It studied Michael with an intensity that suggested complex cognitive processing. Its massive form could crush him instantaneously, yet it remained stationary, almost curious. Michael's training kicked in. He activated a low-frequency sound emissions device designed to produce non-threatening vibrational patterns. It was a long-shot communication attempt, but something about this moment felt different. The creature's sensory appendages twitched, not in aggression, but in what could only be described as recognition. In the dense jungles of Verdun, a moment was unfolding that would challenge everything known about interspecies interaction. A human and the galaxy's most feared predator stood facing each other, not as hunter and prey, but as something potentially more profound. This was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey. The standoff between Michael and the injured apex hunter stretched into minutes that felt like hours. Every subtle movement carried potential danger, yet Michael remained calm, his professional training blending with an intuitive sense of connection he couldn't fully explain. His medical kit, designed for multiple planetary environments, contained advanced nano-healing technologies that could potentially assist the creature's visible injuries. Most researchers would have considered such an approach suicidal. Michael saw an opportunity. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his equipment pack. The apex hunter's sensory appendages tracked every millimeter of his movement. One wrong gesture could trigger an instantaneous defensive response that would terminate his existence in milliseconds. Michael activated a portable medical drone, a small spherical device with multiple diagnostic and treatment arms. The drone hummed softly, its blue diagnostic light scanning the creature's complex exoskeletal structure. Traditional medical protocols were useless here. He would need to improvise. The drone's initial scan revealed extensive muscular trauma and a complex internal wound that suggested the creature had survived a significant confrontation. Puncture marks indicated a territorial battle, likely with another massive predator native to this jungle ecosystem. Most fascinating was the creature's biological response. Instead of displaying aggression, it seemed curious. Its sensory appendages remained extended, not in a threatening posture, but in what appeared to be a studied observation of Michael's actions. "I'm not going to harm you." Michael spoke softly, knowing verbal communication was statistically improbable. Yet communication wasn't always about language. It was about intent, body language, and subtle environmental cues. The medical drone began its preliminary treatment. Nano-regenerative particles started sealing the creature's wounds, using advanced biotechnological processes that could adapt to unknown biological structures. Michael watched in professional fascination as the healing process began. The apex hunter did not retreat. It did not attack. Instead, it allowed the process to continue, its massive form remaining remarkably still. This alone was unprecedented. Every documented encounter with this species suggested immediate, violent confrontation. Michael's communication device began registering unusual vibrational patterns. Not language, precisely, but something more fundamental, a form of communication that transcended spoken or written words. The creature was communicating, just not in any way humans had previously understood. His scientific mind raced with possibilities. Was this a singular anomaly? Or did these creatures possess a level of intelligence and social complexity that galactic research had completely misunderstood? Temperature readings, biological signal patterns, and environmental interactions were all being meticulously recorded. Michael knew that whatever was happening here could revolutionize xenobiological understanding. Hours passed. The medical drone completed its initial treatment. The apex hunter's wounds had stabilized, and its movement appeared less restricted. Michael remained motionless, allowing the creature to process and understand his non-threatening presence. Unexpectedly, one of the creature's sensory appendages extended towards Michael's medical kit, not in aggression, but with a movement that suggested request, curiosity. The gesture was so deliberate, so controlled, that it challenged every preconceived notion about the species. Michael's hand moved slowly, almost instinctively, towards additional medical supplies. The drone had additional nano-regenerative capabilities that might further assist the creature's healing process. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The apex hunter made no aggressive move. Instead, it seemed to wait, as if understanding that Michael was attempting to help. This was more than a medical intervention. This was a potential first contact, not through weapons or defensive strategies, but through compassion and careful understanding. The jungle of Verdun 9 held its breath. A human and the galaxy's most feared predator stood connected by a thread of unexpected mutual understanding, challenging everything known about interspecies interaction. Michael Reed knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was going to change everything. The next planetary rotation brought a subtle transformation in the relationship between Michael and the apex hunter. What had begun as a tense encounter was slowly evolving into something unprecedented, a fragile communication bridge between two entirely different intelligent species. Michael's advanced translation matrix worked overtime, attempting to decode the complex vibrational patterns emitted by the creature. These weren't random signals, but structured communication, intricate and layered with nuanced meaning that human technology struggled to comprehend. He discovered that the creature's communication wasn't purely auditory or visual. It involved a complex combination of electromagnetic pulses, subtle body movements, and environmental interactions that created a multi-dimensional language system far more sophisticated than any known galactic communication method. The apex hunter seemed equally curious about Michael. Its sensory appendages would periodically extend, scanning not just his physical form, but apparently trying to understand his technological equipment, his movements, his very essence of being. During one particularly fascinating moment, Michael realized the creature was mimicking some of his own movements. When he would take a step, the creature would subtly adjust its massive form. When he raised a hand, its sensory appendages would mirror the gesture with remarkable precision. This wasn't just observation. This was learning. Geological readings from Michael's equipment suggested they were in a region rarely explored by previous research teams. The jungle of Verdana 9 was more than just a planetary ecosystem. It was a complex, living network of interconnected biological systems that defied traditional scientific understanding. The medical drone continued its diagnostic processes, now collecting unprecedented data about the apex hunter's biological structure. Each scan revealed layers of complexity that challenged existing xenobiological knowledge. Its cellular regeneration capabilities were light years beyond human medical technology. Michael began to understand that what galactic records described as a mindless killing machine was actually a highly intelligent species with complex social structures and remarkable adaptive capabilities. The creature wasn't just surviving. It was thinking, processing, understanding. Communication breakthrough moments happened unexpectedly. When Michael would adjust his environmental suit's temperature regulation, the apex hunter would respond with a series of vibrational pulses that seemed to indicate similar thermal sensitivity. When he demonstrated the use of his water purification system, the creature showed signs of understanding hydration needs. The jungle around them seemed to pulse with an almost sentient awareness. Background radiation readings fluctuated in patterns that suggested the entire ecosystem was somehow connected, with the apex hunter functioning as a critical node in this complex biological network. Most fascinating was the creature's apparent emotional range. Contrary to galactic legends that portrayed it as a pure predator, Michael observed nuanced responses that suggested curiosity, caution, and something remarkably close to what humans might call empathy. During one remarkable moment, the apex hunter carefully moved a fallen tree branch that blocked Michael's path, a gesture so deliberately helpful that it momentarily stunned the researcher. This wasn't just survival instinct. This was intentional assistance. Michael's communication attempts became more sophisticated. He began using a combination of technological interfaces and carefully choreographed physical movements, creating a rudimentary but functional communication method. The galactic research community would never believe this. Years of documented encounters suggested these creatures were nothing more than destructive forces of nature. Yet here was evidence of something far more profound. An intelligent species that had been fundamentally misunderstood. As planetary rotation approached its twilight phase, Michael realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just a scientific encounter. This was the potential beginning of a revolutionary understanding of intelligent life. The apex hunter remained close, no longer a threat, but a curious companion. Two intelligent beings from completely different evolutionary paths, finding a connection in the vast, mysterious landscape of Verdana 9. Something remarkable was happening, and Michael Reed was at the center of it. The storm approached with a ferocity that defied planetary meteorological predictions. Michael's environmental sensors screamed warnings of an imminent catastrophic event. Unlike anything recorded in the current galactic databases, massive electromagnetic disturbances began ripping through the jungle's ecosystem. Trees hundreds of meters tall started to collapse like matchsticks, The ground trembled with a rhythm that suggested something far more dangerous than a simple weather phenomenon was emerging. The apex hunter's sensory appendages went into high alert. Michael watched in fascination as the creature's entire biological structure began to transform, adapting to the incoming threat with a speed and precision that human technology could never replicate. What Michael initially interpreted as a natural storm revealed itself as something far more sinister. Massive energy signatures suggested an artificial origin, potentially an external intervention designed to completely destabilize the planet's ecosystem. Communication between Michael and the apex hunter reached a critical point. No longer were they separate entities. They were now a unified survival unit. The creature seemed to understand that their individual survival depended on collaborative strategy. Michael's advanced technological equipment began mapping potential escape routes. The apex hunter's biological scanning capabilities provided real-time environmental analysis that complemented his technological approach. Where human technology showed limitations, the creature's natural abilities filled the gaps. The incoming threat revealed multiple attack vectors. Massive energy pulses were systematically destroying the planetary infrastructure. Trees disintegrated. Rock formations crumbled. The entire ecosystem was under calculated destruction. "We need to move," Michael communicated through a combination of technological interfaces and carefully choreographed movements. The apex hunter responded with a series of vibrational pulses that Michael now understood as strategic agreement. Their escape route wasn't traditional. The creature used its massive form to create protective barriers against falling debris. Michael's technological equipment provided precise navigation through the collapsing landscape. They moved as a single, integrated unit, human technology and biological intelligence working in perfect synchronization. Incoming energy signatures suggested a targeted planetary elimination protocol. Whatever was attacking Verdun 9 was not interested in exploration or research. This was systematic destruction. The apex hunter's knowledge of the planetary terrain proved crucial. It navigated through collapsing geological formations with an instinctive understanding that would have been impossible for human technology alone. Michael's equipment provided strategic analysis, creating a perfect symbiosis of technological and biological intelligence. Radiation levels spiked dangerously. Michael's environmental suit began emergency protective protocols. The apex hunter's biological structure seemed to generate its own protective electromagnetic field, creating a mobile safe zone that defied conventional scientific understanding. 3 hours into the planetary destruction, Michael realized they were dealing with something beyond a simple environmental threat. This was a calculated intervention, potentially targeting something specific within the planet's ecosystem. The creature communicated a series of complex vibrational patterns that Michael's enhanced translation matrix slowly decoded. They weren't just escaping. They were being strategically maneuvered towards a specific location. Massive energy weapons continued their systematic destruction. Entire mountain ranges disappeared within milliseconds. The planetary surface transformed from a lush jungle ecosystem to a rapidly disintegrating wasteland. Michael's scientific mind raced. Who would orchestrate such a comprehensive planetary elimination? What could possibly justify such total destruction? The apex hunter seemed to sense his psychological state. One of its sensory appendages made a reassuring gesture, a movement that transcended species boundaries, communicating a simple message: "We will survive." As they navigated through the collapsing planetary landscape, Michael understood that this was no longer just a scientific expedition. This was a fight for survival, with an unlikely alliance between human and the galaxy's most misunderstood predator. Verdun 9 was dying, but they would not. The research vessel Horizon Prime buzzed with tension when Michael's transmission arrived. What should have been a routine planetary survey report had become something entirely unprecedented. Documented evidence of a human forming a complex relationship with the galaxy's most feared predatory species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of xenobiological research, listened to the transmission with a mixture of professional skepticism and barely contained scientific excitement. Michael's data streams challenged every established understanding about the apex hunter species. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Marcus Chen, the senior research coordinator, his fingers rapidly analyzing the incoming data. "No human has ever survived sustained contact with an apex hunter, let alone established communication." The transmission contained meticulous recordings, biological scans, communication attempts, survival strategies that demonstrated an unprecedented level of interspecies cooperation. Michael had transformed a potentially fatal encounter into a groundbreaking scientific discovery. Galactic Scientific Council channels began lighting up. Emergency research protocols were activated. Michael's recordings were being simultaneously analyzed by multiple research stations across different star systems. Initial reactions were predictably dismissive. Decades of research suggested the apex hunters were nothing more than hyper-aggressive predatory organisms designed for planetary domination. The idea of communication, let alone cooperation, seemed ludicrous. But the evidence was compelling. Michael's recording showed nuanced interactions that suggested complex cognitive processing far beyond simple predatory instincts. The creature wasn't just responding, it was strategizing, learning, adapting. Detailed biological scans revealed something extraordinary. The apex hunter's neural network demonstrated flexibility that challenged fundamental assumptions about alien intelligence. Its communication methods weren't random. They were a sophisticated, multi-dimensional language system that human technology was only beginning to comprehend. The research vessel's communication arrays worked overtime. Michael's transmission contained not just data, but a fundamental challenge to existing xenobiological understanding. If his findings were verified, entire academic disciplines would need radical reconstruction. Dr. Rodriguez recognized the potential immediately. "This isn't just a scientific discovery," she explained to her skeptical colleagues. "This could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies communication and intelligence." Geopolitical research stations across multiple star systems began requesting additional information. Military intelligence agencies showed particular interest. A species previously considered an uncontrollable threat was now displaying unprecedented cooperative capabilities. Michael's personal logs were equally fascinating. He described the apex hunter not as a monster, but as an intelligent being with complex emotional and cognitive capabilities. His observations suggested a species that had been fundamentally misunderstood for generations. The most controversial aspect was Michael's suggestion that the apex hunters might be protectors of planetary ecosystems rather than indiscriminate destroyers. His data suggested they played a crucial role in maintaining complex biological networks. Verification protocols were immediately initiated. Multiple research teams prepared comprehensive analysis packages. If Michael's findings were accurate, textbooks would need complete rewriting. Planetary exploration guidelines faced potential massive revisions. Current protocols suggested immediate retreat or defensive engagement when encountering apex hunters. Michael's research suggested an entirely different approach: careful communication and mutual understanding. The Horizon Prime's communication specialist, Lieutenant Karen Williams, monitored the increasing global response. "This could change everything we know about first contact protocols," she muttered, watching data streams multiply exponentially. Political implications were enormous. If the apex hunters were indeed intelligent beings capable of complex communication, entire diplomatic frameworks would need reconstruction. Decades of fear-based interactions could be transformed. Michael's final transmission contained a provocative suggestion. The apex hunters weren't just a species to be feared, but potential allies in understanding complex planetary ecosystems. As research teams prepared their comprehensive analysis, one thing became clear: Michael Reed had just made the most significant xenobiological discovery in galactic history. The universe, it seemed, was far more complex than anyone had imagined. The conference hall of the Galactic Diplomatic Center buzzed with an electric tension. Representatives from over 200 planetary systems had gathered to hear Michael Reed's comprehensive presentation about the apex hunter encounter. Michael stood confidently, his environmental suit modified to display complex holographic data streams. Behind him, subtle imaging showed his unexpected companion, the apex hunter that had transformed scientific understanding. "We've been wrong," Michael began, his voice steady and clear. "Everything we thought we knew about the apex hunter species is fundamentally incorrect." Holographic displays revealed intricate communication patterns, biological interactions, and collaborative survival strategies. Each projection challenged decades of established cynobiological research. The diplomatic representatives represented diverse planetary cultures, some humanoid, some completely alien. Their reactions ranged from intense skepticism to barely contained scientific excitement. Planetary defense ministers initially looked uncomfortable. These were representatives who had built entire military strategies around the assumption that apex hunters were uncontrollable planetary threats. Michael's research demolished those foundational beliefs. Detailed biological scans showed the apex hunter's incredible adaptive capabilities. Its neural network demonstrated flexibility that suggested not just intelligence, but a profound capacity for complex emotional and strategic processing. Michael's presentation revealed something extraordinary. The creature wasn't just responding to stimuli, but actively participating in complex problem-solving. Its communication methods transcended traditional linguistic understanding, representing a multi-dimensional interaction system. The most compelling evidence came from their collaborative survival during the planetary destruction event. Michael demonstrated how technological human intelligence and the creature's biological capabilities had created a perfect survival strategy. "This isn't about conquest," Michael explained. "This is about understanding. The apex hunters aren't destroyers. They're complex ecological guardians." Biological data streams showed how the species maintained intricate planetary ecosystems. Their apparently destructive behaviors were actually sophisticated ecological management techniques that human technology had completely misunderstood. Diplomatic representatives began asking questions. Each query revealed their deep-rooted fear and fascination. How could a species previously considered uncontrollable now be presented as potential collaborative partners? Michael's research suggested a radical diplomatic approach. Instead of defensive strategies, he proposed communication protocols based on mutual respect and understanding. The apex hunter, displayed through advanced holographic technology, remained perfectly still. Its sensory appendages moved with a precision that suggested active participation in the presentation. Ecological researchers found the most fascinating revelations. The creature's biological interactions suggested they played crucial roles in maintaining planetary biodiversity. What appeared to be destructive behavior was actually a complex ecological management system. Political implications were enormous. If Michael's research was verified, entire interspecies diplomatic frameworks would need comprehensive reconstruction. The conference hall represented a pivotal moment in galactic diplomatic history. A single encounter was challenging fundamental assumptions about alien intelligence, communication, and ecological interaction. Michael's final presentation slide contained a provocative suggestion. The apex hunters weren't just a species to be feared, but potential partners in understanding complex planetary ecosystems. Planetary defense ministers looked uncomfortable. Scientific researchers looked excited. Diplomatic representatives looked thoughtful. As the presentation concluded, one thing became clear. Michael Reed had done more than document a scientific discovery. He had opened a potential pathway to a completely new understanding of interspecies cooperation. The apex hunter's sensory appendages moved slightly, almost like a subtle acknowledgement of the moment's significance. The universe, it seemed, was far more complex and interconnected than anyone had previously imagined. And humanity had just taken its first step towards truly understanding that complexity. 10 planetary cycles had passed since Michael Reed's groundbreaking encounter with the apex hunter. The scientific and diplomatic landscape of the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The Galactic Research Institute had established an entirely new department dedicated to interspecies communication, with Michael as its primary director. His work had become the cornerstone of a revolutionary approach to understanding alien intelligence. Planetary exploration protocols underwent complete reconstruction. Where previous guidelines demanded defensive engagement or immediate retreat, new strategies emphasized communication, observation, and mutual understanding. The apex hunter, now recognized as a sentient species with the official designation ecological guardian entities, had become unexpected ambassadors of cosmic diplomacy. What was once considered the most feared predatory species had now become a symbol of complex interspecies cooperation. Michael's original research vessel had been transformed into a mobile research platform, traveling between planetary systems and demonstrating the potential for peaceful interspecies interaction. The original apex hunter that had first encountered Michael now traveled alongside human researchers, serving as a living testament to their groundbreaking discovery. Scientific academies across multiple star systems restructured their xenobiological curriculum. Michael's encounter became a mandatory study module, teaching future researchers about the dangers of preconceived assumptions and the importance of open-minded exploration. Technological adaptations emerged from their collaborative research. The apex hunter's remarkable biological adaptive capabilities inspired breakthroughs in medical regeneration, environmental management, and communication technologies. Diplomatic channels that had previously been closed now buzzed with collaborative potential. Planetary systems that had historically been in conflict found common ground through the unexpected lessons learned from Michael's research. The ecological understanding brought by the apex hunters revolutionized planetary management strategies. Their intricate knowledge of planetary ecosystem maintenance provided solutions to environmental challenges that had plagued multiple civilizations. Michael's personal journey became a symbol of scientific courage. He had transformed a potentially fatal encounter into humanity's most significant interspecies breakthrough. Academic institutions began teaching his approach as a model of scientific exploration. Detailed research revealed that the apex hunters were not just intelligent. They were guardians of complex cosmic ecological networks. Their seemingly destructive behaviors were actually sophisticated maintenance protocols for planetary ecosystems. The original apex hunter that had first encountered Michael had become a living bridge between species. Its ability to communicate and collaborate demonstrated capabilities that challenged every previous understanding of alien intelligence. Galactic exploration strategies underwent fundamental transformation. Where previous approaches emphasized conquest and defensive positioning, new protocols emphasized communication, mutual understanding, and collaborative exploration. Michael's technological interfaces, developed during his initial encounter, became standard equipment for interspecies research teams. The communication matrices he had developed allowed for unprecedented levels of cross-species understanding. The diplomatic implications were profound. Entire geopolitical frameworks that had been built on fear and misunderstanding began to crumble. The apex hunters were no longer considered threats, but potential partners in cosmic exploration and ecological management. Research stations across multiple star systems continued to study the intricate communication methods Michael had first documented. Each new discovery reinforced the fundamental lesson of his work. Intelligence takes many forms, and understanding requires patience and respect. Michael himself had become more than a researcher. He was now a symbol of humanity's potential for growth, adaptation, and transcending preconceived limitations. His encounter with the apex hunter represented a pivotal moment in cosmic exploration. The original jumbo planet of Ferdinand IX, which had been the site of their first encounter, was now a protected research zone. It served as a living testament to the potential of interspecies cooperation and understanding. As planetary cycles continued, Michael's legacy grew. What had begun as a potentially fatal encounter had transformed into humanity's most significant step towards understanding the complex, interconnected nature of cosmic intelligence. The universe, once seen as a place of potential conflict, was now viewed as a network of potential communication and collaboration. And it all began with a single moment of unexpected understanding between a human researcher and a misunderstood alien species.